What up, guys? It's Dom, and welcome back to another movie review. So the grinding that we have been doing of all the X-Men and Deadpool movies has finally come to an end, besides Dark Phoenix and New Mutants. But today we're going over a movie that was super anticipated that I could not wait to see, and that's Deadpool and Wolverine. Deadpool and Wolverine. Directed by Sean Levi, Deadpool is offered a place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe by the Time Variance Authority, but instead recruits a variant of Wolverine to save his universe from extinction. Let's get right into these 10 essential aspects of a movie. The first essential aspect is plot. So I enjoyed the plot of this movie, and that's really because it was a classic. I'm glad that they chose such a simple concept as superheroes saving the world, because a lot of movies do that. And usually the plot is good in those because it's so simple. It's easy to understand. You follow the three main characters, however many you can find in that movie. And it goes to the end and they save the world. That's really it. And that's what this movie was advertised as, and that's exactly what happened. So they did a good job with the plot. It wasn't too complicated, at least for me. I feel like if you're not really a fan of all the X-Men movies or the MCU, a lot of stuff could go over your head, especially the cameos and everything. I'll get into that in a little bit. But me personally, I enjoyed the plot. I thought it was easy to follow. The second essential aspect is attraction. So I don't even think I have to say it, but of course this movie was entertaining. I mean, look at the title, Deadpool, Wolverine. Deadpool, probably the most entertaining character in Marvel. And Wolverine has such a counter personality to Deadpool, them butting heads the entire movie. I mean, that's entertaining. It's fun to watch. Two characters that we have watched for so long now in these previous movies finally coming together with the relationship they have, the bond they have. It works. I know a lot of people are probably going to say, it did work, but not as highly as they were expecting. This is really exactly what I was expecting. I was expecting exactly what they did, and I loved it. I really thought this movie was really entertaining, and shame on you if you don't. The third essential aspect is theme. So I'm not 100% sure what the theme of this movie really is. If I had to put my money on something, I think it'd be family. The whole reason he wants to save the universe isn't to save the universe, it's to save his family. It's to save Negasonic Teenage Warhead, Colossus, Vanessa, Dopender, Peter. It's to save his closest family. So I gotta say that's probably the theme, but let me know what you think in the comments. The fourth essential aspect is dialogue. Now this is where I'm going to give this movie a 10 out of 10, maybe even an 11 out of 10. Because obviously Deadpool, his fourth wall breaking, him talking to the audience, him making these jokes knowing that we're watching, I mean, that's what gives it a 10 out of 10. But I'm giving it an 11 out of 10 because of the connection and how real the conversations felt between Deadpool and Wolverine. Because the bond they have is absolutely insane, especially for technically just meeting for the first time in this movie, but because Deadpool has all of this previous knowledge, because he lives outside of the screen, he is the man outside the fourth wall. So it makes those conversations really interesting. And of course, the jokes that he can make connecting to like real life out here, references to us and references to all the previous movies that the cameos are from. I mean, how can you not love the dialogue in this movie? The fifth essential aspect is acting. Okay, so if you haven't seen this movie, which by the way, how have you not seen it yet? Please go watch it. It's awesome. I'm going to spoil a little bit of the cameos. So I'm going to leave a timestamp above me right now. If you don't want to know who the cameos are in this movie, skip to that point. That's when I'll talk about Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. So just skip to this point. Okay, so I'm going to start listing off some of the guys that are in here. Chris Evans as Johnny Storm, Henry Cavill as the Cavalrine, Daphne Keane as Laura, Jennifer Gardner as Elektra, Wesley Snipes as Blade, Channing Tatum as Gambit, Aaron Stanford as Pyro, and Tyler Mane as Sabretooth. Now I loved all these cameos, and the problem is that if you haven't watched the Deadpool movies, the X-Men movies, they're all gonna fly right over your head. You're not gonna understand any of these characters. You're just gonna be like, okay, they're just random characters that are just in this movie for the first time. Which is unfortunate because I feel like that's why I did all these reviews previously, to not only refresh my mind, but so I can talk about all the movies that really give this movie meaning. Because if you haven't watched those movies, you're not going to understand why it's so awesome that these guys are making an appearance. Like Chris Evans. I loved that in the movie, everyone thought he was going to be Captain America, and Deadpool even was like, oh, he's going to say Avengers Assemble, and then suddenly flame on. And I loved that, especially since Chris Evans himself did say that he would only really return as Human Torch to Marvel. He wouldn't want to touch Captain America because it was already so well done. He doesn't want to ruin the memory of that character. But Human Torch didn't get the love he deserved. So I'm glad he returned as him, even for a brief moment. That was awesome. And then seeing Pyro and Sabretooth from the X-Men movies was incredible. I mean, even though it was such a small portion, just knowing that they exist still was awesome. Elektra, Blade, and Gambit, that scene was insane. Especially since he was making a reference to Blade that he's going to, be played by someone else, even though Wesley Snipes did say, like, oh, there will never be another Blade, it's just me. So I thought the cameos were awesome, that they brought such cool characters. And one more thing that I almost forgot, Channing Tatum playing Gambit, he was going to have a solo movie called as Gambit, and they just kept finding difficulties. They kept pushing back. Eventually they canceled the project, but he finally got to play Gambit, which is the character he wanted to play. And he was going to be cast in X-Men Origins Wolverine, but he had another project, so of course he couldn't play him. But I honestly really thought he fit the role. I thought he fit it well. The way that he spoke was insane. It didn't even sound like Channing Tatum. So all of those cameos really made the movie better to me because I knew all the references. But if you don't know the references, I can tell that the movie wouldn't be your favorite because it was really reliant on them. The movie was really reliant on you knowing who these characters are that they're referencing, that they're showing, because that's what made the movie really good. So I'm sorry for all of you that watched it without seeing the X-Men movies, but you should go rewatch those movies and then watch this movie again. And I feel like you guys are gonna love it. Now, welcome back to all of you guys that wanted to avoid the spoilers. Let's talk about Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool and Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. I'm glad that they chose a Logan from a different universe, because if they touched that Logan that finished his story, it would ruin the whole reason that Logan was created. The movie, of course. But I am glad that they used someone from a different universe. It made him have a whole new perspective, a whole different story arc, a reason for why he's there. So Hugh Jackman being able to play a different version of a character he's been playing for so long now, he did an amazing job, of course, but who would think that he would? Really? Because he is Wolverine. No matter what version of Wolverine, he will play an amazing Wolverine. And Ryan Reynolds, come on, he's Deadpool. He is known for it. There's a reason why he writes in these movies, because he is Deadpool. He has the comedic effect that Deadpool needs to be a good character. They both nailed it. And I thought that was pretty obvious, but I still thought I wanted to mention it. The sixth essential aspect is cinematography. Now, I thought this movie was very cinematic. I mean, the opening scene, the opening credits, I think is my favorite out of all the other Deadpool movies. I loved it. I loved the song. I loved the way that they showed him taking out all these TVA guys. I thought it was awesome. And then throughout the entire movie, it's honestly, it's not, I wouldn't say a cinematic masterpiece, but they nailed it. There was not one point in the movie that I didn't like what was on screen, really. They made it look really, really good. Even at the end, especially the end, by the way, because the way they showed that scene was incredible. I loved it. I'm surprised some people don't like that, but I really, really did. So I thought this movie did really good cinematically. The seventh essential aspect is editing. So you guys already know I'm going to say this again. For those of you who have been following my previous videos, I say it in all the Deadpool movies. I would be fine with 4 hours straight of just Deadpool. I love the character so much. He is so entertaining. He's so comedic. He's so action-packed. I love the character, and I love all the movies. And this movie was 2 hours and 8 minutes long, and I think that's a good length. It had a long story to tell, but it did pace itself well. It did wrap it up nicely at the end. It left us hanging a little bit, thinking, okay, what could happen next, but not enough to really be a massive cliffhanger. I thought they did an amazing job with the way that they paced the movie. And obviously I wish it was longer, but I'm glad they kept it to at least a point where people that aren't a Marvel fan would still find it a reasonable amount of time. The eighth essential aspect is soundtrack. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is where this movie excelled. I mean, it had so many good throwbacks. All the Deadpool movies have great soundtracks. This one was absolutely amazing. I loved every single song that was playing ever in this movie, and it always fit the scene. It fit the morale. It was awesome, and especially the opening credits. It was awesome. I thought it fit Deadpool's goofy personality. The way that he was dancing in the opening credits was incredible. So the soundtrack, off the charts. The ninth essential aspect is directing. So the director of this movie is Sean Levi, and it was his job to take these previous 8 essential aspects, put them together to make a movie that's worth watching. Now, I obviously think he did. A lot of people can disagree. I'm going to say this one more time. Marvel fans will agree that this is a great movie. People that aren't a fan of Marvel might not like it. It really depends on the person, but me personally, I loved this movie. And he had a lot of experience. He has previously directed 15 movies, so bear with me here. Address Unknown, Just in Time, Big Fat Liar, Just Married, Cheaper by the Dozen, The Pink Panther, Night at the Museum, Battle of the Smithsonian, Date Night, Real Steel, The Internship, This Is Where I Leave You, Night at the Museum, Secret of the Tomb, Free Guy, and The Atom Project. Now, I know the director and Ryan Reynolds had good chemistry, and it makes sense looking at these movies because a good amount of these have Ryan Reynolds starring in. So I'm not surprised that he has good chemistry with both Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds and could take their input into making this a really, really good and anticipated movie. So I thought he did an amazing job, and he has done a lot of good movies too. So I'm not surprised that experience really does pay off and made this, probably the most anticipated movie of this year. And the 10th essential aspect is time. I think it's obvious. I think Deadpool and Wolverine will definitely stand the test of time. It is now part of a trilogy that is probably one of my favorite trilogies. And it caps off the Fox Universe X-Men really, really well. And because it's part of both of these universes, these really big universes in Marvel, I think there's no chance that it doesn't stand the test of time. This movie was awesome. I loved it. It was one of my favorite movies that I've seen in a while. So yeah, it stands the test of time. No question here. Now onto the reviews. So I don't know what these reviews are at now, and what I'm about to show below is the current ones. I checked these reviews a few days ago, so we'll see if they changed. But from the last time I checked, Rotten Tomatoes critics gave them a 78%. Rotten Tomatoes audience gave them a 97%. And IMDb gave it an 82%. Now, as I said in the last video, I'm not going to give what I'm really rating this just because I'm always just going to say something and then it's going to turn into not being that, just because I'll give something a 90 and then put something above it that's an 80 for me. So I'm going to stop doing it, but I like that these reviews are actually really mixed up because then I can tell. Audience gave it such a high score because everyone loved this movie. Everyone was so excited for it to come out, and critics really get nitpicky and pick away at things, trying to see it as not a Marvel fan, just seeing it as another movie. So that makes sense why they put it lower and audience put it higher. And IMDb is kind of a healthy mix of both. So I do like where they put these reviews. Let's move right on. Finally, the rankings. So this is probably going to be a controversial ranking. There'll probably be some hate in the comments. I really don't care. This is where I'm ranking it. If you guys want to rank it somewhere else, go make your own review. But either way, in 2024, it will rank first. It will be above Inside Out 2. I did like it a lot more. I went to go see both recently, and I found myself enjoying Deadpool and Wolverine much more than Inside Out 2. I think the story is probably slightly worse. Inside Out 2 has a very engaging and entertaining story with all the new characters, except that Deadpool and Wolverine, it had so much to live up to. I'm sure nostalgia is playing a little bit of a part in my head, but I'm honestly comparing these when I was comparing the 3 Deadpool movies and seeing where I would put them. That's really was the deciding factor here. So it is going to be above Inside Out 2, and you'll understand why in a little later. In the 2020s, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be at first. It's going to be above Inside Out 2. I really just think that I enjoyed the movie a lot more because I feel like the plot is better than Inside Out 2. but I had more fun watching Deadpool and Wolverine, and both were really meant for entertainment more than anything. So if I'm more entertained watching Deadpool and Wolverine, that's the movie that's going above it. And in all time, I'm actually going to put it second. It's going to be right below Deadpool and right above Inside Out. Now, this was my dilemma. So I think that Deadpool and Wolverine is right below Deadpool, which is why I put it at second. Because I definitely could put Inside Out above it. I definitely could put some other movies above it. But because I think it's on par, basically on par with Deadpool, I can't really split them up. Eventually, I'll probably find a movie that fits right in between. But for now, I really can't split them up. I think that everything is on par, except I like the plot a little better in Deadpool. Because I love the cameos and the jokes and everything a lot better in Deadpool and Wolverine, because it's more recent, it's more references. There's a lot more has happened since then, so a lot more cameos and references to those characters can be made, which is why I enjoyed that more. But of course, Deadpool's origin story is amazing, which is why I kept it above. Because I feel like if Deadpool and Wolverine has to go anywhere, it's not going to go above Deadpool. That's all I have for this review, and I know it's been a long grind from all the X-Men movies to the Deadpool movies to this one, and I'm glad you guys stayed with me throughout the whole thing. I've gained a lot of subscribers. I've gained a lot of people that are interested in hearing what I'm gonna say. So thank you all again for sticking through me here. Now we're gonna get back onto the schedule where I'll do a Marvel movie every few videos instead of just hard grinding Marvel X-Men movies. So either way, that is all I'm going to have for Deadpool and Wolverine. I hope you guys enjoyed this movie review. If you did, leave a like and subscribe, and make sure to comment what movie you want me to review next. I already got a bunch of your comments. I have them on the list. Those are going to be the next movies I'm reviewing. After, I am going to do New Mutants and Dark Phoenix first, just so I can finish out the X-Men movies and I don't have to touch them. So either way, I hope you guys have an amazing day. Peace out.